If I could go back to 2024 and talk to the girl who was about to move from India to France, I would stop her and tell her three things immediately. First, learn French before you even book your flight. Second, stop rushing your applications. And third, 6 months of waiting could completely change your future. Because the truth is, I made a lot of mistakes before moving to France. Some cost me opportunities. Some made my life much harder than it needed to be. And one of them is the reasons I keep telling every student today, please do not do what I did. Almost 2 years later, if I had to start my France journey all over again, here's exactly what I'd do differently. So let's rewind for a second. Back to 2024, I'm sitting in India. I've just finished my bachelor's. I'm excited, nervous, and honestly, I'm dreaming. At that point, I had absolutely no idea what my life in France would look like. I didn't know what my apartment would look like, didn't know what the city would look like, what kind of friends I would make, how difficult some things would be, and I definitely didn't know how much I was going to change as a person. But one thing I did know was that I wanted to leave my comfort zone. And France wasn't even my only option. Years before that, the plan had actually been London. I was supposed to go there for my bachelor's, but then COVID happened and everything changed. So when it came to think about my master's degree, we started exploring different options again. Dubai was one of them, Germany was another option, and of course, France. Now, the reason I did not choose Dubai was actually very simple. Every time I looked at those universities, they looked very impressive. They looked expensive, luxurious, but something just didn't feel right. I couldn't imagine myself there. It felt more like a place where people wanted to show success rather than build it. And maybe that's just my personal opinion, but I didn't feel connected to it. France felt different. Back then, I was already working in hospitality. Also, I come from a hospitality business family. I've always loved luxury hotels, luxury brands, beautiful experiences, beautiful destinations. And France is literally one of the capitals of luxury, tourism, hospitality, and fashion. So, from a career perspective, it made sense. But there was another reason too. And if I'm being completely honest, this was probably the bigger reason. I wanted to see the world. I've always loved traveling. Ever since I was younger, I used to dream about visiting different countries, experiencing different cultures, and building a life that felt bigger than the one I was already living. And suddenly, France felt like the gateway to that dream. I imagined myself traveling around Europe, taking trains to different countries, discovering new cities, meeting new people from all across the globe, living independently, creating memories that I would remember for the rest of my life. And honestly, some of those dreams did come true. But before any of that happened, I made a mistake. Actually, several mistakes. And the biggest one was that I got carried away by the excitement. I was so focused on leaving that I forgot to prepare properly. I wasn't thinking strategically. I wasn't thinking long term. I was just thinking, I want to go. I want to go now. And that mindset made me rush everything. I started my application process extremely late. Looking back, way too late. And because everything happened last minute, I didn't research enough. I didn't compare enough universities, enough cities. I didn't understand ranking properly. Didn't look at the long-term opportunities properly. And I definitely did not ask enough students about their experience. I was basically relying on the consultant and just trusted the process. And please don't misunderstand me. I'm not blaming the consultant. This was my responsibility too. In fact, more mine than his. I should have researched more. Should have asked more questions. I should have taken ownership of my own future. In fact, my dad actually suggested waiting. He told me that if I waited, I could prepare better, apply better, research more, maybe even get better opportunities. But at that time, I didn't want to hear it. Because when you are that age, around 22, 23, and all you can think is moving abroad, 6 months feels like forever. Today, 6 months feel nothing. And if I could go back, I would definitely take those 6 extra months. Because those 6 months could have changed a lot. They could have helped me apply a bit more strategically, could have opened scholarship opportunities, could have given me more university options, and most importantly, could have given me more time to prepare for the mistake that affected me the most after arriving in France. The language, French. And trust me when I say this, if you remember only one thing from this entire video, remember this. Do not come to France without learning French. I don't care if your course is taught entirely in English. And I don't care if somebody told you that everyone speaks English. I don't care if you think you learn after arriving. Start now, because that was one of the biggest mistakes I have made. Nobody really stressed how important French would be. So I thought I'd learn it once I got here. And reality hit me very quickly. Suddenly, I needed French for administrative procedures, for accommodations, for internships, part-time jobs, daily life, for conversations, building relationships, for understanding what exactly was happening around me. And every month that I delayed learning French made life harder than it needed to be. Today, whenever a student messages me asking for advice, my answer remains the same. Start French before you start packing. Not after, before. Now, let's talk about something that I wish I had understood much earlier. Money. Or more specifically, scholarships. Because one of the questions I receive the most is, did you get a scholarship? And the answer is no. I didn't receive a scholarship. Now, does that mean scholarships don't exist in France? Absolutely not. They do. But once again, my biggest problem was timing. Because I rushed my applications, I never really gave myself enough time to build a scholarship strategy. Everything was happening so fast that my focus became get admitted, get the visa, get to France. And that's it. Looking back, I realized I was thinking short term. If I was applying today with everything that I know now, scholarship research would start way before university applications. Not after, before. Because scholarships are not something you discover 1 week before applying. Many of them require preparation, planning, documents, and deadlines that start much earlier than students realize. So, since I didn't receive a scholarship, my studies were financed through an education loan. And while education loans can make study abroad possible, they also come with responsibilities. Because one day, the money has to be repaid. And when you know that, every decision suddenly becomes much more important. Which university you choose, how much tuition you pay, what city you live in, how quickly you find internships, everything matters. And this brings me to something nobody really talks enough about. The emotional side of moving abroad. Because before moving to France, I wasn't really scared of loneliness. Honestly, I thought I would be fine. I've always been quite independent. I was already helping with business. I had started my own event company. I wasn't somebody who was afraid of doing things alone. But loneliness is funny because it doesn't arrive dramatically. It arrives quietly. It's not usually the first week or the first month. Sometimes it hits you randomly. Maybe on a rainy evening, maybe during a festival, maybe after a phone call with your family, or while eating something that reminds you of home. And suddenly you realize that the people you love are thousands of kilometers away. I think that's one of the hardest parts of studying abroad. Not because you're incapable of handling it, but because nobody can truly prepare you for it. You only understand it once you live it. And yet, despite all of that, I wouldn't tell anyone not to move abroad. Because the same experience that makes you feel lonely sometimes is also the experience that makes you stronger. You learn things about yourself that you never would have learned otherwise. You become more independent, more adaptable, more confident, and slowly you start building a second version of yourself. Now, if I had to start this journey from scratch all over again, here's exactly what I would do. First, I would start learning French immediately. Not 6 months before, not 3 months before. Immediately. Second, I would take my time with university research. I would compare rankings, programs, locations, career opportunities, tuition fee, everything literally. Third, I would speak to as many current students as possible. Not consultants, not brochures, real students. Because real students tell you things brochures never will. Fourth, I would build a scholarship strategy much earlier. And fifth, I would stop treating moving abroad like a race. Because that's exactly what I did. I treated it like something that needed to happen immediately. And today I realize that a better decision is usually more valuable than a faster decision. So, if you're watching this and you're preparing for France right now, here's what I want you to remember. You do not need to rush. You do not need to panic. And you do not need to compare your timeline to someone else's. Take your time, research properly, prepare properly, learn French, and make decisions that your future self will thank you for. Because moving abroad is one of the biggest decisions you will ever make. And it deserves that level of preparation. Now here's the funny part. After everything I just told you, after all the mistakes, after all the challenges, after all the things I would do differently, if somebody asked me today, Sonia, would you still choose France? My answer would be a yes. 100 times yes. Because France changed me. It challenged me. It pushed me outside my comfort zone. It gave me experiences that I could never have had if I had stayed where I was. And while I would definitely change my preparation, I wouldn't change this journey. Not for a second. And in the next episode, we are going to get practical. I am going to walk you through the actual application process, step by step. How I applied, what documents I needed, Campus France, mistakes I made, and everything I wish someone had explained to me before I started. So, if that's something you'd like to see, make sure you've subscribed because I'm working very hard to help as many of you as possible. And if you're already preparing for France, tell me in the comments, what's your biggest fear about moving abroad? I'd genuinely love to know, and hopefully I can help. So, I'll see you in the next one. Until then, bye-bye.